and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we are going to tell you about a wonderful way that you can have fun on the water in Hampton and you don't have to own your own boat. This is Jeremy Churchill from Hampton Water Sports. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, this is one of those things that came together just beautifully. I mean, City Council has made it a priority to activate the water and to make. We have 124 miles of waterfront in Hampton, from creeks to rivers to bay, and a lot of people can't get out there and see it because it's expensive to own a boat. It's darned expensive, and people maybe don't have a place to store it. And so you have the answer, right?
Yes, ma'am. You know, like they say, BOAT stands for bring out another 1,000. So we try to, provide water equipment and rentals for people that can't maybe afford to have their own products.
Or they're visiting here.
Yes, ma'am. They're visiting, or they want to try something out before they do end up buying something.
Mm-hmm.
So we are opening 3 brand new locations here in the city of Hampton.
And wait, correct me if I'm wrong. You're hitting creek, river, and bay, right? You've got all 3 of our types of waterways.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
So, where do you want to start? I mean, this is just really, let's start with Buckrow, because I think that's the biggest place, the place where people go for the water, for entertainment, for fun, for sun. What do you guys have there?
Yes, ma'am. At Buckrow, we have jet ski rentals. We do hourly rentals, or you can also contact us for full day rentals. We do kayak rentals, paddleboard rentals, and we also are adding this year at the city's request, we're adding kayak fishing. Fishing kayaks.
Oh, nice.
So people can rent fishing kayaks and go out and enjoy the bay for the day, and fish for some of the great species of fish that we have here in the bay.
Now, I want to let people know how easy some of this is. Like, a kayak does not take any instruction or any experience. And people really, I don't know if it's harder at Buckrow, but there's not that big of waves you have to get past. Like, I'm not sure I could do it in the Atlantic, but it's super easy. You really just kind of figure it out as you go.
Yeah, one great thing about Buckrow is that there are 4 or 6 break walls that are installed at Buckrow. So we can launch kayaks and paddleboards behind those break walls where the water is nice and calm. So that people can then paddle out from there if it does happen to be a day where there's a little bit of chop in the water. Mm-hmm. We've been out at Buckrow for a couple weeks now, just doing testing on different equipment and training staff, and we haven't had any days that have been overly choppy where it would hinder somebody from operating a paddleboard or a kayak.
Now, paddleboards I've never tried. That seems like that would take more balance. Is that true?
It does take a little more balance.
I mean, they're pretty wide.
Yeah, paddleboards do take a little bit more balance. All of our staff are trained to give individuals instruction on how to use a paddleboard or a kayak if you've never been on one before. Same thing with the jet skis, we offer instruction on those. Paddleboarding, I've had kids as young as 6 years old, and I've had people as old as 80 years old that have come out and paddleboarded before. So it's all relative onto what your comfort level is on the board. But even some people that get tired of standing up, they end up sitting on the paddleboard and paddling that way, or they end up sitting on their knees and paddling. So there's a lot of different ways you can enjoy the water with those.
It sounds like a lot of fun. And I do want to reassure people, I've been in kayaks for years. I've never tipped. Used to tip in a canoe from time to time, but also I was with the Boy Scouts and we were tipping them and practicing, making them practice their rescues and all that stuff. It really is, it's not easy to tip a kayak. I mean, it's not going to happen unless you're doing something like, standing up or reaching too far or whatever. I want to reassure people because it's a ton of fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah, the kayaks are very safe. They're very stable. All of our kayaks are tandem kayaks that actually have a 3rd seat in the middle of the kayak. So if you decide that you want to take it out by yourself, you have a kayak that's built for 2 people that you can either put 2 people in, or you can sit in the center seat, or even some families that come out and want to take their kids out. You'll have a father and a mother, and they'll put their young child in the middle seat. So they are very stable, very safe. If you were to tip over or something like that were to happen, we do have water patrol that are there and can be to you within 30 seconds.
And you're going to make them wear a life jacket, right?
Yes, the rules require that anybody in a kayak wear a life jacket. You have to wear a life jacket at all times. It's the same thing with a jet ski. You have to have a life jacket at all times. Paddleboarding is a little bit different because they consider the paddleboard a flotation device, and it is tethered to your ankle by a leash. You have to have the life jacket on the board, but you don't have to actually physically be wearing the life jacket. We recommend that everybody wears the life jacket. It's just for your protection and our protection. And if something were to happen and you were to fall in the water and you can't get back on the board, it provides you that extra stability.
Now, when we posted the news about you guys having this, we got a couple of comments about, or concerns from people that having jet skis near the beach or having people who aren't really trained or don't know what they're doing, there was some concerns about that. But you guys are going to be doing training.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're going to keep an eye on this.
That's correct. So as far as concerns with being close to the beach, we do have a specific part of the beach that we operate out of. Our location is marked clearly with flags and buoys, so there are no swimmers. We launch directly from the beach there. Anybody that does not come to our location and already have a boat or safety license, we do give them a 10-minute course. So it's called a dockside safety checklist. We have to go over a bunch of safety rules with them, rules of the water. One of the other things that we do is that all of the riders have a chase ski that are out in the water with them. So they are led out from the sand, into the water 300 to 400 yards offshore to a wide open area, and our chase ski is in the water with them at all times.
That should calm some people down.
Yes, ma'am. Hopefully.
And the other exciting news is that you have concessions at Buckrow.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys are selling. I know it's early in the season.
Yeah, it's early in the season. We do have basic concessions like drinks and snacks. We have tons of ice cream. And also, and we're also adding hot dogs and barbecue in the coming weeks.
Great. So there will be a whole lot more at Buckrow this summer. But I also want to tell people about your other two locations because it's maybe a little quieter, different kind of water to be out on. Let's start with Bluebird because I know we're still working out the dock situation, but by the time we air, that should be ready to go.
Yeah, actually the dock is supposed to be completed today.
Yay!
So we're very excited. Bluebird, it's a family environment. So we've gone with equipment there that is focused specifically on families and groups of people enjoying the water that is behind Bluebird. A lot of people don't even realize that New Market Creek, which is behind Bluebird, leads all the way out here to Air Power Park, which is across the street from your studio, and then it will lead out to the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, and it's completely different kayaking in those environments. As you go up back river, it's huge and wide and sunny, but that part in New Market is gorgeous.
It is.
People can't really see it, from any of the roads. You go back in there, there's marsh grass, there's birds. It's beautiful.
Yeah, over the recent weeks, we've actually seen a lot of different predatory bird species that are back on the water there. We've seen a few eagles. We've seen a lot of hawks. The park staff has even seen a couple otters that have come up in the waterway back there. So the city's doing a fantastic job of building a new kayak launch. One of the things I want to touch on with the kayak launch is that it's going to be handicap accessible. So the kayak launch is built specifically to be able to launch somebody who could be in a wheelchair into a kayak. It's a really neat design. The kayak will sit in the middle of a launch, and the individual can use their hands to hold them in place. It locks their paddle in place. And once they're ready to go into the water, there's rollers which then roll them into the water. So when they come back, the rollers then bring them up, and there's a chair that pulls them back onto the launch. So
that's really
some
neat.
Really nice things that the city's adding.
Is an opportunity for people who don't always have that kind of access.
And a lot of people don't know how wonderful Bluebird is. They haven't had concessions in a long time. Mm-hmm. We have basic concessions out there with ice cream and snacks and things like that. The water equipment that we will have there are pedal boats. So we can fit up to 5 people in a pedal boat. All the boats have an awning on them, so if it is a really sunny day, you can still,
That's
be
good
out
for
on the
little
water.
Kids. You're worried about sun exposure.
We also have kayaks out there, so people can enjoy the waterway that way. We're not offering paddle boards out there just because the water is a little bit shallower, and it is tidal, and we don't want anybody, if they were to get off their board, to get stuck in the mud or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then the other location is
Mill Point Park in downtown. We're right at the base of the Settlers Landing Bridge, right next to where the park is. We have a nice location there. We've just recently added on to the city's floating dock, and that location will have pedal boats, kayaks, paddle boards. We also rent boats there. So if you want to go out on the water and spend your day fishing and rent a boat from us, we will rent a boat. We also have some pontoon boats. So if you have your family and friends want to go out, most of the pontoon boats will hold up to 14 people. And then in the coming weeks right now, we're working on adding jet ski tours, which will leave from Mill Point Park and go out and go to Fort Wool, Fort Monroe, go across the water to the Norfolk Naval Base, downtown Norfolk. It's going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hour tour, which takes about 26 miles.
That is really cool. And that's what I was trying to reassure some people who were worried about jet skis, because it's a no-wake area in the Hampton River. You got to be careful, but you're getting out.
Yes, ma'am.
And taking people, and they're guided. They're not loose on their own.
All of our equipment that is motorized is guided, in and out of the creek over there. Any of the jet skis, it would be a guided tour. Any of the boats that go in and out, we actually guide the boats in and out of that inlet there until once they reach the mouth, just past blue water yachts, and then they can go.
Then they can go and fish.
Out. They can either go to the James River or up the Elizabeth River or out into the Chesapeake Bay.
Holy cow, that is so much fun. Because that is, kayaks are, some people can afford their own if they have a space to put it. That's the other hard. But a fishing boat with a motor, that's where you start getting into the big money there for ownership. This is great. So what are the costs? And obviously there's a huge range, because the motorized stuff is going to cost a lot more than the smaller kinds of equipment.
That's correct. Yeah, so all of our equipment is, like I said, we rent on an hourly, a half day, or full day basis. Our rates start as low as $10. For some of the paddle sports, and go up to $30. And then as far as motorized sports, the jet skis, they start at $89 for an hour. And then the boat, there's so many various prices on the prices that go into that. But we try to make it affordable for everybody. You'll find that it's really no more than renting a car for the day.
Yeah, and when you have, a bunch of people in town, or if you're doing a staycation, I always like to remind people that we are a tourist destination in Hampton. And if you want to do a staycation, you can program 7 days really well and stay busy and hit, museums and now water sports and beaches and all the kinds of things that people come here for. We can go out and appreciate in our own hometown.
Absolutely. Buckrow Beach is a beautiful beach. The city does a really nice job of keeping the sand nice and groomed. It's always free of litter. The water's nice and calm. We do offer, we do events for people. Recently we were contacted by a law firm that wants to come out and rent all of our equipment for an entire day and have all of their team building event is what they're doing. And then we also were just recently contacted by a family reunion. They're going to have 80 individuals. So they've asked us to provide some concessions for them as well as rental equipment. And
what
if we do
a one-stop shop for a big event like that.
Yeah, we do. We can, fit anybody that's a single, individual that wants to rent on their own, to large groups of individuals that want to come out for the day or even for the full weekend. We can provide that. We provide some really good pricing to make it fit within your event's budget.
So how did this come about? I mean, we know council had an interest. You had a business that previously did water sports.
Yes, ma'am.
At Virginia Beach. This opportunity did it just dovetail? I mean, how did it happen?
Yeah, I created this company with my business partner Mike Walsh back at the end of 2015, and we went out to seek business from the cities and state business, and we got in touch with Kevin Myers with the city of Hampton, who's been fantastic to work with, and went around this past October to a bunch of the park locations, and we pitched him on what we could do and what we could bring to the table. And then at that time, he brought in the economic development team, who is undergoing a big revitalization for Buckrow. That was Amy Jordan at the time. She was also fantastic to work with. And it went from there. We put together a really nice proposal for the city. And one thing that we wanted to show the city is that we were serious about doing business. And we actually are leasing the spaces and paying a good amount of money to lease the spaces.
That's what I was going to say. This is good news for Hampton taxpayers who aren't interested in participating, because the city's going to receive some tax revenue, some lease payments from your business.
That's correct. Yeah, the lease payments that we have for each location, they increase on a yearly basis. So they'll go, starting the first year, just because it's a new business, we have a lower rate. But at the end of it, the city will be receiving over $54,000 per season just from rentals, just from lease alone.
Yeah.
And that's not including, there are some small rental taxes that the city have on short-term rentals. The other thing I want to touch on is that we did not approach the city and ask for any money at all. A lot of businesses come into the city and want a lot of money thrown their way. And, my business partner, who's a venture capitalist, said, no, we're going to approach it a different way. And he's put up, he's put up the money for the business. And, it's all on us at this point.
And, you guys seem to have quite a bit of initiative. You understand the business because you've done it in other places. What makes you think you're going to work in Hampton?
Oh, it's we know it's going to work. Buckrow Beach, we have access to 175,000 visitors per season. Bluebird Gap Farm, we have access to 300,000 people. If you take the individuals that come to the the downtown area in Mill Point Park, we have access to another 200,000+ people. So, there's roughly 700,000 or 800,000 people that utilize these places that haven't been able to experience the water. And our response on Facebook and Instagram and places like that have been extremely positive. Bluebird put a post out on Facebook, and it's told their followers that we were going to have ice cream. Within 12 hours, they had over 14,000 likes and shares of their Facebook posts, and it was the largest. It was the largest ever post that they've done, and that was only for putting a teaser out there that they were going to have ice cream coming soon. So we know that the citizens of Hampton and the surrounding cities want to be able to enjoy the beaches and the parks here more, and we're here to provide a service. And we've been doing this for a long time, and there's been a lot of thought that has gone into it, and we've worked through the nuances of being able to provide a really quality service. And have people coming back and enjoy themselves. So that's why we know it's going to be a huge success.
Thank you. I believe it will too. Yeah. I am very excited about this.
We are too.
And I do want to let people know, because these launches exist doesn't mean you can bring your own equipment and launch there. You guys have the exclusive use of most of those locations, right?
Yeah, at Summit, there's nowhere where we would ever shut anybody out if they wanted to launch their own equipment. But it does save the hassle of having to lug your kayak or paddleboard or something to one of the locations. If you're at
especially at Buckrow, that's kind of where where people can find you is kind of behind the pavilion, right? A little bit to the north of that is where your first thing is, but they're going to launch from a little further away, right?
That's correct. Our concession and our setup is just to the north side of the playground area of Buckrow, and then where we're launching all of our water equipment, because we're taking into consideration the safety of the swimmers and things like that, we launch just a little bit farther north of that, right on Tappan Avenue. So we have an exclusive spot there where people won't be able to swim and set their chairs up in that area, just so that we can get our rental equipment in and out of the water.
Yeah, because we need to keep everybody safe and
Absolutely.
Respect the swimmers, respect the boaters, and make sure everything goes well there.
That's correct. Yeah, it's our number one focus in the season is to make sure that everybody stays safe. I was the general manager of an operation for a very long time in the state park in Virginia Beach, and fortunate for us, we never had any incidents with people getting hurt or any accidents or things like that. So
it sounds wonderful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming to Hampton.
Sure.
And thanks for sharing this with us, because
Sure.
I think it's going to go great.
It is, and I just want to let people know that they can book on our website.
Which is, go ahead and say.
It's hamptonjetski.com. You can set up online reservations. We also take walk-up reservations, or you can phone in.
Okay, and let's just touch on your plan is to be daily from Memorial Day through Labor Day.
That's correct.
And before and after that, weather permitting, you're going to stay open on weekends, right?
Yes, weather permitting, prior to Memorial Day, we're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. After Memorial Day, we will be open 7 days a week. Mill Point Park and Buckrow Beach are open from 9 a.m. until roughly 8 p.m. at sunset. Bluebird Gap Farm, the city actually just opened Bluebird Gap Farm for the first time on Tuesdays, because it has been closed every Tuesday. And starting Memorial Day, they're actually extending the hours of Bluebird Gap Farm. Instead of closing at 5 p.m., they're going to be closing at 6:30 p.m. So, people that have been wanting to enjoy Bluebird for a long time and have come out on Tuesdays and the park is closed, it's actually going to be open 7 days a week now from 9 a.m. until 6:30.
And where you guys launch from is kind of way in the back of the park, but I assume there's signage. I haven't been back there recently.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a path that leads through the center of Bluebird that goes past the tortoises and rabbits and predatory birds. That goes back to the living shoreline, and that's where the kayak launch and will take place. Our concession stands are set up right next to the main part of the petting zoo that's next to the barn.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
All right,
thank you
thanks,
so
Robin.
much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for watching. I hope you will take this opportunity when people are in town, when you're doing a staycation or on a weekend, to go out and experience Hampton's water, and you get a view that you don't get of the city any other place. So it's worth it for that, if nothing else. Enjoy the summer.